Ballistics is the study of missiles, of bullets, mortars and rockets. Anything that can be fired across battle lines. We assume these are high-tech inventions of the modern military machine. New discoveries are forcing scientists and engineers to rethink this idea. New evidence is revealing that ballistic weapons were used on battlefields thousands of years ago. As they revisit the evidence, the conclusions scientists are reaching are explosive. This is the story of ancient super ballistics. The ancients devised super ballistic weapons of surprising power. Monstrous catapults that destroyed cities. Multiple rocket launch systems capable of firing 100 rounds a second, anti-personnel machines that pierced armor and shields, and even handheld superweapons whose tactics and design is echoed on today's battlefields. The question being investigated by ancient discoveries is just how effective were these weapons? What tactics were used? What technologies were employed? How lethal were they? Now, in a series of groundbreaking ballistic experiments, we put the designs of the ancient military engineers to the test. Our team of leading military historians and modern-day weapons experts are about to reveal that war in the ancient world was as bloody and as lethal as it gets.
The ancient battlefield is not a place you want to be. Each time the engineers, the scientists, the armourers came up with an advance, it became a more horrific place. It's incredible how advanced these engineers were at developing ways to kill their enemy.
Eliminating your enemy has been a concern of mankind for thousands of years. Ever since conflict began, men have attempted to invent ways to attack an enemy while minimizing the risk to the attacker. The best way to do this is to put distance between yourself and the enemy, and this means using projectiles. Ballistics is the science that deals with the motion, behavior, and effect of projectiles, like arrows, bullets, and rockets. The concept is as old as war itself.
We know from the archaeological record that an understanding of ballistics goes back hundreds of thousands of years, from when man first used a throwing stick to extend the lever of his arm to make a javelin go further. When we get to the written record, we know that they were studying it as we do now, as a science.
The quest to discover the origins of ballistic science begins in the East, in the ancient superpower of China. In the 5th century AD, over 1500 years ago, China was the undisputed technological superpower of the ancient world. For over 2,000 years, her engineers were at the forefront of scientific development, creating inventions that continue to shape the modern world. And perhaps none of these have had greater impact than those designed for war.
The Chinese military thinkers were concerned mainly with psychological warfare and with using the advances in technology, which China's own industrial revolution had given them, to give them the advantage over the rest of the world, the people they called the barbarians.
Ancient Chinese military texts contain images and descriptions of weapons with destructive capabilities comparable to those used today. This triple crossbow, first developed in the Song dynasty, was a 25-foot-long siege device that employed not one, but 3 bows to give it extreme power to fire metal-tipped missiles up to a mile. 1,000 years ago, Chinese weapons manufacturers were creating weapons with lethal potential. This model of a 1,000-year-old flamethrower could shoot flame over 30 feet. The pumping action drew a flammable agent similar to petrol into a tube. The return thrust expelled the liquid toward the enemy at a temperature of 500 degrees centigrade. One of its first recorded deployments was in a naval battle on the Yangtze River in 975 AD. It was used by the southern Tang forces against the Song Emperor's navy.